She claimed she was pregnant with my baby, until the DNA test said otherwise. She came to my apartment holding a picture frame like a trophy. Not a fancy one. Thin brass paint flaking at the corners, glass slightly fogged with fingerprints. She set it on my coffee table the way people set down bad news. "We need to talk," Mila said, and angled the frame so the black and white crescent floated in the middle like a moon behind static. I stared at it too long, pretending I could read it. "I'm an engineer. I like things with labels and units." This was a smear of light and shadow with her red manicure reflected in the glass. "That's an ultrasound," I said. Tonalities all wrong, like I was answering a question at customs. "Our ultrasound," she corrected. "I thought you'd want to see your child." The room felt suddenly smaller, compressed by the slow tick of the wall clock and the steamed smell of the takeout I'd never opened. She'd texted earlier, "Emergency. Coming over. Don't freak out." For 6 weeks, she'd been this lightning in my schedule. Overnight bags dropped by the door, playlists on my speakers, the way she'd look up from her phone and laugh at something I hadn't said yet. We met at a gallery opening. She said she did social media for brands and was between stable gigs, which sounded like a storm forecast you try not to look at too closely. "How far?" I heard myself ask. 8 weeks. She didn't hesitate. "I was going to tell you sooner, but I wanted to be sure." The clinic confirmed. 8 weeks. My brain did the gear-clicking thing it does when I check a bug report against a deploy time. 6 weeks since the first night she borrowed my hoodie and forgot to give it back. 2 weeks before that I didn't even know her last name. "You're quiet," she said, stepping closer. The perfume she wore was the same one that lingered on my pillow. Bright and sugary, almost medicinal. "I know you're a planner. I didn't come to start a fight. I came because this matters. We matter. I didn't expect this." Understatement of the year. I tried to hear my heartbeat and couldn't. All I could hear was my mother's voice from 1,000 future phone calls. "Finally, a family. Finally, you're doing something proper with your life." Mila's eyes shone. She's good at this. Sitting just close enough to blur the line between news and intimacy. "I don't want to push you," she said, pushing me. "But the sooner we do things right, the easier it is. The clinic has packages." "Packages?" I said, idiotically. "Checkups. Vitamins. And if we do the announcement, my boss can put me on lighter tasks. A man stepping up. People respect that. And I won't have to think about other options." Her voice thinned on the last words. "I hate that phrase, but it's real." I picked up the frame. The glass wobbled in its seat. In the corner of the photo there were digits I couldn't decipher. Little machine ticks. Date. Patient number. Which clinic? Private one. Dr. S. Well, it's a partner clinic. They're amazing but discreet. She said discreet the way some people say expensive, like it automatically proves quality. "It's a small place. The doctor works late. Sometimes they close to the public. Can you send me the report?" I asked, as carefully as I could. She blinked, then nodded too quickly. "Of course, it's a lot right now. Also, I should be honest. I need help. Tests, vitamins, rent. My landlord's been on me. I'm not asking for the world. Just to show me I'm not alone." It was a clean pitch. Not a threat. Not quite. A draft of a future in which I was on the right side of the story. That night, after she left the frame and kissed my cheek with theatrical restraint, I called my mother. "Stupid move." "You'll bring her by Sunday," my mother said, not asked. "I'll make soup. We will talk like adults." "Max, this is a blessing. You always make everything so complicated, like there's a right algorithm for love. Sometimes you simply do what's correct." "What's correct?" I asked. "You marry," she said, as if reading off a grocery list. "You support. Children need a father. Be a man." I lay awake listening to the refrigerator hum, and the occasional late bus break outside. There's a specific dread to a decision that feels like a test you haven't studied for. It turns every object into a witness. The coat rack, the dumbbell by the TV, the plant I've been meaning to repot. When I finally slept, I dreamed of numbers changing by themselves on a spreadsheet while I tried to pin them with formulas. In the morning, my friend Ilya called after seeing my 2-word text. "Call me." He's allergic to drama, in a way I've always envied. "Congrats," he said. And when I didn't laugh, he didn't either. "Okay, first things first, timelines." 8 weeks, she says. "When did you meet?" 6? I heard him inhale softly. "You want me to say it, or are you going to say it?" "I know," I muttered. "It could be mine. It could not." Then you get certainty. Not Instagram stories, not a frame. Certainty. Do they do paternity before birth now, or is that still sci-fi? "Nip," I said, remembering a late-night rabbit hole I'd fallen through when an acquaintance had posted baby pictures with a man she'd known for a month. Non-invasive prenatal paternity. Her blood, my swab, private labs. "Get one," Ilya said, quietly. "If you're the father, you step up without paranoia poisoning everything. If you're not, then you know what story you're actually in. Also, send me the clinic name. I like my doctors with websites older than last Tuesday. Mila came by again that evening with a paper bag of prenatal vitamins and a smile that felt like it had been practiced in a mirror. We ate the cold noodles I'd abandoned the night before. She talked about baby names she had once liked when she was a kid. I used to name my dolls after cities. And I nodded at the right places, trying to keep my face from showing the arithmetic happening behind it. When I asked for the ultrasound report again, she apologized. She'd left it at work. She'd bring it tomorrow, promise. I almost told her about the test then. I almost said, look, this is not mistrust. This is physics for my heart. But something in the way she watched me, sharp beneath the softness, made me swallow the words. After she left, I found myself wiping fingerprints off the frame with the edge of my t-shirt. The glass pinged under my nail. At midnight, I opened my laptop. The lab's website loaded with clean fonts and too many smiling couples. There were disclaimers, FAQs, reviews with suspiciously identical punctuation. Still, there were also documents, chain of custody forms, legalese that tasted like metal on my tongue. Mobile phlebotomist, they offered. Because why make anything easy? We come to you, to her, to wherever, and package it up with barcodes, results in days. Before the payment page, there was a checkbox. I understand that the alleged father's consent is required and that the mother will be notified about the collection. I stared at it until my eyes stung. Ilya's words replayed in my head, certainty or stories. I thought about my mother's soup simmering like an argument, about the word discreet, and how it had hung in the air like perfume. My cursor hovered. I thought about the first night on the gallery steps, about how Mila had tipped her head back and laughed at the same slice of sky I was looking at, how easy it had been to believe we were aligned. Maybe we were. Maybe I was already the bad guy for even needing proof. I clicked. The page stuttered, refreshed, and then the box turned green. Order confirmed. A calendar popped up with appointment windows and a polite bot asked for 2 addresses. I filled them in with hands steadier than I felt. When it asked for a date of last contact, I typed the truth and watched it sit there like a stone on a lake bed. I closed the laptop, and the apartment filled with that soft afterglow of electronics powering down. The frame on the table caught a slice of streetlight through the blinds, the crescent inside it glowing like an omen, or a joke I didn't get. My phone buzzed. Mila, can we talk tomorrow? Something came up with work, then a second message. And please don't tell your mom yet. I want to meet her when it's settled. Settled. I lay back on the couch and listened to my own breath. Somewhere above me, a neighbor laughed. Then a chair scraped. Then silence slid back over everything. The confirmation email pinged into my inbox like a tiny hammer tapping glass. I pictured a technician labeling vials with my name, with hers, with a number that might save my life from a story that wasn't mine. I picked up the frame one more time, and for a moment, just a moment, I believed in the longing I saw in the reflection more than the math. Then I set it down exactly where it had been, and waited for morning to arrive and make a liar of me or not. The results came back on a Wednesday night while I was staring at the ceiling, counting the clicks of the radiator. My phone buzzed with the lab's email notification. I opened it like a man opening a letter bomb. Slow, then all at once. The words were sterile, technical, printed against a white screen that suddenly looked too bright. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Not the father. 3 words that detonated quietly in my chest. For a moment, the relief was so sharp it felt like joy. Then the rest caught up. The shame for doubting, the panic about what she would say, the fear of becoming the villain in her story no matter what proof I held in my inbox. I sat at the kitchen table with the frame she had left, the fake little moon glowing in grayscale. I thought about Ilya's voice. Certainty or stories? Well, now I had certainty. But certainty doesn't help when the story someone else is telling is louder, messier, more dramatic. The next morning at work, I felt the shift before I heard it. Whispers at the coffee machine. A glance that held a little too long. At lunch, my manager called me into the small glass office where HR waits with folders. We need to check in, she said. There have been concerns. Concerns? About your personal life interfering with your professional environment, posts online, stories circulating. I don't want to believe rumors, but she gave me that careful HR look, like she's trying to pet a dog that might bite. If you're involved with someone who works tangentially with our clients, and there's a pregnancy, there isn't, I said too quickly. Her eyebrows lifted. That's not what's being said. I wanted to slam my phone on the table and shove the PDF across it. Instead, I muttered, I'll handle it. By the time I got home, Mila had left 2 missed calls and 1 message. Can you stop ignoring me? We need to face this together. I didn't answer. I couldn't. I just sat there until the dark came in through the blinds and finally called Ilya. She's making this public, I said. Of course she is. Control the narrative, always. What are you going to do? I don't know. If I show the result, I'm the guy waving a lab report at a crying woman. If I don't, I'm the guy who abandoned his baby. You're not her PR agent, he said. You don't have to win the story. You just have to not drown in it. That night, Mila showed up again, this time with another ultrasound printout. Not framed, but folded in her purse. She laid it on the table like a card in a poker game. I know what you think you have, but those tests can be wrong. My doctor said the blood ones aren't reliable if the father's DNA is too similar to other samples. They're designed to trick you. This one is real. Look at the date. The date was different. 2 weeks later than the first. The embryo looked slightly bigger, or maybe I was imagining it. The corner code blurred under my thumb when I tried to hold it steady. I'm not trying to trap you, she said, tears rising on cue. I'm trying to raise a child. Do you think I'd go through all this for fun? Why would I? You think I don't know how this looks? But you're the father. And every time you push me away, you make it harder for me to keep believing in us. I wanted to scream that she had already lost me, that the test wasn't a suggestion, it was math. Instead, I said, if you want me to believe you, let's do the official one when the baby's born. In the hospital. No private clinics. Her face hardened. Just for a second before the tears returned. You're really going to drag me through 9 months of this doubt? You're cruel. She stuffed the printout back in her bag and slammed the door so hard my plant rattled against the windowsill. Later that week, the HR meeting escalated. They'd received complaints that I was harassing her, abandoning her, that she might take legal action. My head spun while they spoke. My only defense was silence. If I said the word test, I'd sound insane. When I finally got back to my desk, Ilya had sent me a link. A parenting forum thread about fake ultrasounds, stock images, apps that generate the blur and crescent with convincing metadata. Not saying she's doing it, he texted, just saying the rabbit hole goes deep. That night, I locked my door twice, but sometime around 2 a.m. the lock rattled anyway. Not loud, not violent. Just the quiet scratch of a key that didn't fit. My heart slammed as I froze in bed. When I finally checked the hallway camera feed in the morning, all I saw was the back of a figure in a long coat, walking quickly down the stairs. The coat looked familiar. I didn't call the police. I didn't tell anyone, not even Ilya. I just sat with the knowledge that this wasn't going to end with a single email from a lab. The next morning, Mila texted, "We need to talk. Please don't make this uglier than it has to be." And for the first time since this began, I wondered if she was right. If ugly was still in front of me, waiting. The next few weeks blurred into a constant hum of pressure. Mila didn't stop, she accelerated. She posted a photo of herself with a hand on her stomach, captioned, "Some men run, some men stay. Pray for us." She never tagged me, but people didn't need names. My coworkers whispered louder. Even my mother called, her voice stern. "Why haven't you brought her by? Why is she making announcements online before I've even met her?" "She's lying, Mom," I said, pacing my apartment. "The test? I don't want to hear about tests. I want to hear about responsibility. I raised you better than this. Do you want the whole city thinking you're a coward?" It wasn't just family. Mila started dropping hints about marriage, saying things like, "Imagine how much easier it would be if we just got the paperwork done before the baby comes." One night, she brought over a neatly folded form, a template for acknowledging paternity. The blanks were left for my name, my signature. I pushed it back across the table. "You can't be serious. You think this is some scam? You think I want to raise a child with a man who doubts me? I'm giving you a chance to do the right thing." "The right thing would be honesty," I snapped. Her eyes glittered, not with tears this time, but with something sharper. "Careful. You'll regret how you talk to me." When she left, the apartment felt colder than before, like she had sucked the warmth out of the walls. Ilya stepped in harder then. He's not dramatic. He's surgical. He pulled the ultrasound photos into Photoshop, zooming on the metadata printed at the corners. "See this? Different font sizes. This isn't standard output from one machine. Either 2 different clinics, or someone tampered." He dug further, and we learned the private clinic she'd mentioned wasn't on any medical registry. Just a rented office with a desk, a printer, and a phone number that forwarded to voicemail. I wanted to believe it was sloppy bureaucracy. But then came the scene in the cafe. I'd agreed to meet her in public, thinking it would keep things calmer. We sat by the window, cold sunlight pouring across our coffees. I told her about the doubts, about the lab result, about the HR pressure. Her voice dropped low, almost breaking. "You don't understand what you're doing to me," she said. "Every night I lie awake wondering if this baby will feel unwanted before it's even born. You're killing us." "Mila, stop. This isn't real. I know it's not mine." Her lip trembled. "Do you know what that sounds like? Do you know what people will call you?" I caught myself gripping the edge of the table hard enough that the wood bit into my palm. She reached out, placed her hand on mine, softer now. "You don't have to give me everything. Just help with a little money. Tests, vitamins, rent. Show me you're human. I pulled my hand away. The look that crossed her face chilled me. Her tears dried in an instant, replaced by pure calculation. That night, as I unlocked my apartment, my stomach dropped. The lock was scratched, rough, fresh marks around the keyhole. Someone had tried again. I checked the hallway camera footage. Grainy video, but the figure was clearer this time. Long coat, a flash of her scarf as the hood fell back when she turned. Mila. I sent the clip to Ilya, who called me immediately. You need to record everything. Every call, every visit. Don't confront her without evidence. She's escalating. The next day, she messaged, I just wanted to stop by to leave some vitamins, that's all. Why are you acting like I'm dangerous? I stared at the text until the words blurred. I didn't reply. For the first time since it started, the thought came fully formed. If I didn't get ahead of this, she was going to destroy me. On paper, online, maybe worse. But what I didn't know yet was that she wasn't alone. There was someone else in this mess. Someone I hadn't seen coming, and he was about to make his entrance. Ilya became my shadow strategist. He insisted we start building a paper trail. Think of it like a court case, he said, sliding a blue folder across my kitchen table. Inside were printouts of Mila's posts, screenshots of her captions, and copies of the lab's report. He'd even started labeling them with sticky notes. Exhibit A, Exhibit B. You don't want to end up in some kangaroo court of public opinion with nothing but your word against hers, he said. We need timestamps, receipts, actual artifacts. She thrives on chaos. You need order, so I started carrying a pocket recorder everywhere, flipping it on during conversations in public. At first, it felt paranoid. Then, it felt necessary. Every time Mila spoke, I imagined having to replay it for someone else someday. HR, a lawyer, maybe even the police. Meanwhile, work grew unbearable. HR pulled me into another meeting, this time with more formal phrasing. We're not taking sides, they said, but if these allegations keep spreading, we may need official documentation from you to close the matter. When I asked what they meant, they said, an accredited DNA test after birth. Court admissible. I nodded, pretending calm. Inside, I felt the floor tilt. That same week, Mila stopped coming herself and started sending someone else, a man. He introduced himself as just a friend helping with the legal side. He wore a crisp jacket, carried a leather folio, and smiled like a shark. Look, no one wants this to get messy, he said, leaning back in his chair across from me at a cafe. Mila doesn't want to drag you through court. You don't want to look like the kind of man who abandons a woman in need. The solution is simple. Recognition of paternity. It makes everything cleaner. I stared at him. You're a lawyer? Advisory, he said quickly. I help people in complicated circumstances. Trust me, the worst thing you can do is fight this. Fighting makes it ugly. Sign the acknowledgement, pay a little support, and you can keep your job, your reputation, your peace of mind. Something about the way he said, your job, made my skin crawl. He wasn't just fishing. He knew exactly what strings to pull. That night, I called Ilya, replaying the conversation on speaker. Ilya whistled low. Not a lawyer. Or if he is, he's moonlighting without a license. Listen to how vague he is. No names, no firms, no paperwork. He's bluffing, but he's confident, which means he's not bluffing alone. We dug. Ilya traced check-ins and photos, cross-referencing places Mila had posted with public business listings. Patterns emerged. The clinic, where she claimed to get her ultrasounds, same block as a marketing office where a man named Oleg worked. He was tagged in old team photos with her. Manager, mid-30s, ring on his finger. And when we checked his timeline against hers, the overlap was uncanny. He's the one, Ilya said. The shadow in this story. The question is, what's he getting out of it? Why hang it all on you? I didn't want to believe it, but the more I stared at Oleg's picture, the more pieces slid into place. The too slick legal friend, the pressure to sign, the way Mila always dodged concrete details. Then came the slip. She left her purse on my couch during another teary visit. While she was in the bathroom, I saw the flash drive half buried in a side pocket. Out of reflex more than intent, I slipped it into my pocket before she came back. Later, alone, I opened it on my laptop. Inside were mismatched folders, photos of old medical forms, PDF invoices from different clinics, even a draft email chain about abortion counseling, dated nearly a year earlier, and among them, another ultrasound image. Different embryo, different date. My stomach twisted. This wasn't sloppiness. This was a kit. A toolkit for a performance. When I called Ilya, my voice shook. She's been collecting props, fake ultrasounds, old letters, staged invoices. She's building a whole archive to back herself up. Ilya was quiet a long time. Then he said, Max, this isn't just manipulation. This is fraud. And if Oleg's involved, you're not dealing with just her desperation. You're in the middle of their cover. The next day, Mila texted me, sweet as sugar, let's meet tomorrow. I feel like we're close to finding common ground. But all I could see was the flash drive sitting on my desk, the weight of proof against her, and the shadow of the man she was protecting. And I knew, whatever common ground she wanted, it was a graveyard. The call came just after dawn. My phone buzzed with Mila's name, the ringtone slicing through my sleep like a blade. When I answered, her voice was trembling and theatrical. It's happening. I'm in labor. If you're not here, everyone will know what kind of man you really are. Her words weren't an invitation. They were a summons. I grabbed my jacket and drove to the hospital with a knot in my chest so tight I could hardly breathe. The maternity ward smelled like antiseptic and steam. Nurses rushed past with clipboards and soft voices. The world reduced to bright lights and muffled cries. When I asked for Mila, they pointed me to a waiting area. She saw me and instantly broke into tears, clutching my hand. I knew you'd come, she whispered. Around us, other expectant fathers gave me the kind of nod that said, solidarity. My stomach flipped. But Ilya had drilled into me what to say, what to ask. We need the official test, I told the admitting nurse, forcing the words out like they were a prayer. Chain of custody. Court admissible. Right after birth. The nurse looked at me like she'd seen this before and simply said, of course, we'll arrange it. Hours later, the baby was born. I stood in the corridor, the sound of the newborn's cry bleeding through the door. Part of me wanted to collapse into that sound, to let biology rewrite the script, but I stayed where I was, my fists tight in my pockets. The swabs were taken. From the baby, from me. Papers signed, sealed bags carried away by a technician. It was all sterile, official, undeniable. 2 days later, the result came in. I opened the envelope with hands that shook. The words hit like a hammer. Probability of paternity, 0.00%. Again, the same verdict. When I told Mila, her mask cracked. For a moment she screamed, incoherent, fists clenched. Then, like a switch flipping, she went cold, her voice flat. Fine, believe what you want. You'll regret this. That was when I laid everything out. The flash drive, the mismatched ultrasounds, the fake clinic. I spread it across the hospital table like a detective in some grim movie. Her face drained of color, then twisted with something darker than fear. Rage. The door burst open before she could speak, and in walked Oleg. He wasn't pretending this time. His tie was loosened, his expression caught between fury and shame. Behind him trailed a woman I instantly recognized from his social media profile, his wife. Her face was pale, stricken, but her eyes burned holes in him. What the hell is going on? She demanded. Mila tried to stand, but her body betrayed her, too weak. Oleg stepped forward, words tumbling out. It's not what it looks like. She was supposed to, but then he snapped, losing the script. It was supposed to be simple. Pin it on him, clean break, no questions. Nobody had to know. His voice echoed down the corridor. A nurse froze mid-step, staring. His wife covered her mouth with her hand, then dropped it, shaking. You lied to me? About everything. About her. About the baby. You lied and you wanted to ruin someone else's life to cover it. Ilya appeared then, as if conjured, phone in hand. Got that recorded, he said calmly. The chaos erupted. Mila sobbing, Oleg begging, his wife storming out with her phone already dialing. Probably a lawyer. Nurses hurried in. Security not far behind. Someone mentioned calling the police. By the time I left the hospital, everything felt scorched. My name was clear in the documents, but my life felt like a battlefield after the fire. I hadn't just dodged a bullet. I'd walked through a war zone, and I knew it wasn't over. Not yet. The truth was out, but truths have a way of twisting once they hit the open air. Mila still had her stories. Oleg still had power, and I still had to face the world with scars no one could see. After the hospital chaos, life didn't magically snap back into place. If anything, the silence afterward felt heavier than the storm. Mila disappeared from social media, deactivating accounts that had once broadcast every meal and mood swing. But whispers remained. People love unfinished stories, and she left just enough breadcrumbs, cryptic posts on burner accounts, screenshots sent through mutual acquaintances, that I was cast as the villain in some corners. Oleg's world collapsed more publicly. His wife filed for separation, his company put him on administrative leave, and a few local gossip blogs even picked up the story of a mid-level manager trying to bury a scandal by hanging it on someone else. He tried to reach me once. A late-night number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. His voice was slurred, desperate. We could have handled this differently. You didn't have to burn everything down. I deleted it without replying. Work finally closed the matter after I gave HR the official test results. They handed me a letter stating I was cleared of all allegations. It should have felt like vindication. Instead, it felt hollow, like proving your innocence in a crime you never committed but still served time for in rumor. The hardest confrontation came at my mother's kitchen table. She ladled soup into my bowl like nothing had happened, but her eyes were heavy. I wanted to believe her, she said quietly. I wanted a grandchild. I wanted you to have a family. I know, I said. But wanting doesn't make lies into truth. She sighed, long and tired. I pushed you because I thought love comes after responsibility. Maybe I was wrong. For the first time, I told her no. Not angrily, not with bitterness, just a simple boundary. Mom, you don't get to decide what's right for me. Not anymore. She didn't argue. That silence was the closest thing to peace we'd had in years. Ilya stayed my anchor, reminding me that survival itself was a victory. Most people would have signed just to shut her up, he said. You didn't. You fought the story with facts. That's rare. Months later, a letter came in the mail. No return address, just my name written in her handwriting. Inside was 3 pages of confession and apology, if you could call it that. She admitted she was drowning in debt, that Oleg promised to take care of her if she made it look like I was responsible. She said she never meant for it to go so far, that she convinced herself she was protecting her future child by securing someone stable. Her words bled with half-truths and excuses, but buried between them was a flicker of sincerity. I'm sorry for what I stole from you. Your peace, your trust. I hope you find someone who doesn't need to trick you to keep you. I folded the letter once, twice, slid it back into the envelope, and tucked it away in a drawer. Not forgiveness, not vengeance, just closure. One Saturday morning not long after, I went for a run along the river. The air was sharp, the sky clear. I stopped on the footbridge where the city opened wide below me, pulled my phone from my pocket, and snapped a photo of the sunrise. Later, I printed it and slipped it into the old brass frame she'd once left on my table. The glass caught the light, and for the first time, it held something real. That was the lesson, I think. It wasn't about proving her wrong or exposing Oleg or even clearing my name. It was about learning to stop letting other people's lies define my life. She once tried to hang my future on a grayscale blur, a crescent of shadows and glass. Now that same frame sits on my shelf, holding a sunrise. Proof that stories don't end where lies want them to. They end where you decide to start again.